Okay, so in the last video, I talked about we're buying cars and we're going to start selling cars, building cars and selling them ourselves. And the reason we're doing it is so that we can provide instant satisfaction for people that are looking for the cars. 10 months ago, I just looked and it's almost to the minute. 10 months ago, I bought 2 Corvettes. One of them was Bay City Roller, which was a coupe, 66 coupe that was from Bay City, Michigan. And the other one was Wilkesboro, which is, we picked up just outside of Wilkesboro International Raceway. This is Wilkesboro. It's done. It's completely finished. And now we're going to start showing it to people. But this is an example of what we're doing in the future with the cars that we're building and selling for ourselves. I went and bought 2 cars. I bought one car that had the original paint on it, had never been touched anywhere, anyhow. It was perfect. This car had been painted once, probably when I was in elementary school, somewhere in that neighborhood. It had never been taken apart. It had never been touched. It had never been damaged. This is how you buy cars, and this is how you build custom cars. The nut and bolt of the car has to be there. People oftentimes bring us these cars and say, well, I bought this car, I only paid $5,000 for it, and I want to make a hot rod out of it. Well, the definition of making a hot rod today is $250,000 and up. So to save money buying the car up front and say, well, I only paid $5,000 for it, so I can afford to spend money on it, is totally off base. The truth is you want to go buy the nicest thing you can find, which is what I did. And that's what enabled us to get this car done in 10 months. Now, I know I ran my mouth and I said in the beginning, if you go back through the videos, that I was going to get these cars done in 120 days or whatever it was. And the people that know me very well laughed as I said then. I am forecasting these to be done in about 120 days. And all my customers are going, bullshit, you ain't never done nothing in 120 days. I will, and I can. And they were right. I didn't get it done in 120 days. And I probably wasn't on budget either. But 10 months later, the car is finished. It is completely finished. I spent the weekend driving it like a madman. And it is a lot of fun. I just really want to brag about the car because it's absolutely probably the prettiest Corvette, or the top 5 prettiest Corvettes I've ever seen. And I know everybody's kid's the prettiest kid that they've ever seen. I don't have kids, all I have are cars. So I am a little partial, but I think when you look at this car, it really is one of the prettiest Corvettes you've ever seen. I mean, it's hard to beat a black coupe with cool wheels on it, red interior. It's really tough to beat this car. It's fun to drive. I did put an automatic transmission in it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to drive the car, and I think I made a great decision with it. It's not to say I'm not going to build the next one with 5-speed. I am. So again, this is Wilkesboro. It is finished. It is 100% done. It's a good thing for us. It's working right. We're going to do a lot more of it. As I mentioned before, I have a Morrison chassis on order for a C1 car that we're going to start immediately. And then I'm going to go buy another 1 or 2 C2s depending on what my budgets will allow. Again, the car is untouched. It was perfect. Fiberglass was perfect. We're going to reiterate that when we look underneath the car. I'm going to show you the insulation that we've done to it. I'm going to show you all the natural fiberglass that we left exposed so you can see it. I didn't do like everybody else does and spray bed liner all over the bottom of the car. Bed liner to me means all you're doing is hiding a bunch of shit. And it's true. I mean, I've done it. Most people do it, but when you're spending this kind of money on a car, you shouldn't. It should all be original. It should all be perfect. There's no reason to not go buy a $60,000, $70,000, $75,000 car. Start with something really first class, which is what we've done. The car reflects it. The car drives like it. It's an over-the-top car. I'm super proud of it. The guys have just knocked it out of the park. Paint and body has just killed it on this thing. David did most of the assembly on the car. A couple of us have worked together to work the bugs out of it. The car is phenomenal. And I will make some 100-mile-an-hour passes in it this afternoon, and you'll see that not only does our stuff look good, I've stressed this and I've stressed this and I've stressed this. And yes, I am bragging, and I have every freaking right to brag because the car is that good. Our stuff works. I can't tell you how often. I just had a car in here, $500,000 car. It's a bag of shit. It really was. It's beautiful. It looks great. The guy that built it is an artist, and he should stick to making pictures because his shit doesn't work. So now we have to take the car and make it run and drive. Our stuff, when we give it to you, it will go fast because I've already been 100 miles an hour in it. I promise you, I won't give you the car unless I've been 100 miles an hour in it. So in a controlled situation, not on the street, maybe. At 100 miles an hour, you sit there in the seat and go, wow, this is freaking cool. Sunday, I did it 10 times testing the shocks. The shocks that we've used are dual valve body shocks, so you can control compression and rebound. You can fine tune the car to ride like it's supposed to. It handles fantastic, better than a standard Corvette. I'm not after a racetrack quality turning capability. That's not it. I want it to ride good. That's what we were tuning. The byproduct was that the car still handles really well. So we're going to start in the back of the car, just because. We're going to start taking a look at detail and quality first of all. So the back of the car is finished off. You can see the exhaust. We use the factory exhaust temps. So it's a 2.5-inch exhaust system that exits through a very small tip in the back. There's no power loss to speak of. It may be measurable, but it's not something you can feel in the car. And I really like the way it looks, so it's okay. Believe me, it's fast enough. If you take a look at the exhaust system, we like the Borla mufflers. You can see the V-band clamps that we use everywhere so that we can disassemble the exhaust should the engine ever have to come out of the car, God forbid. We take the time when we build the exhaust system on any of these high-dollar cars. This is all stainless steel. It's mandrel bent tubes, and the joints are all MIG welded together. This exhaust system takes 3 days to build. You could build it with mild steel with a MIG welder. You can probably build it in 8 or 10 hours. But we go to the extra length so that the car looks the way it's supposed to, and it lasts. It won't fail. I mean, I won't live long enough for it to fail. You start looking underneath at all the detail, the fit and finish. This is a nut bolt restoration. There is no nut, no bolt that hasn't been touched on this car, that hasn't been restored. Most of it is new. We use the fiberglass, we use the frame rails. Basically everything else was purchased from scratch. We use basically a stock brake system with a much upgraded caliper. This is a Wilwood caliper. It's a Wilwood supplied rotor. It's vaned differently, and it has some venting in it that the factory stuff doesn't. I use Van Steel. I've done this car. The Roadster is also Van Steel. The Roadster is a carbon copy of this, except it's a stick shift and it'll have side pipes. So I use the Van Steel because I've known these people for a very long time. Their product is excellent. I like the way the car drives better. Ride Tech is an excellent product. We've used them before. I have no complaints whatsoever. I just like the Van Steel stuff a little bit better. It's completely priced. It doesn't, you're splitting hairs at that point. We do incorporate a little bit larger anti-roll bar in the back. The big block cars would have come with an anti-roll bar, but it would be a little smaller diameter. This was a small block car, so it didn't have anything. The most important thing I want to stress on this car is you start seeing the things with all the natural fiberglass. You see where we've added insulation where we could to stop heat from being absorbed, and some sound deadening. Sound deadening was huge in this car. We spent a lot of time and a lot of money making it quiet and making the air conditioning work, and it does in both cases. But I stress and I stress and I stress about the glass. The C1 car that we just did, you heard where we cleaned everything up, made it look good. Well, this is way, way nicer. This is one of the nicer ones, and so is Bay City. Bay City is equal in quality to this. But you can see where we've cut and fit the fiberglass, or the insulation panels. Still left a little bit of the fiberglass exposed. This is the gas tank. It's a custom-made stainless steel gas tank. It's made by a company in Texas that we found. It incorporates GM, all GM-produced fuel systems, so you don't have aftermarket stuff to fail, theoretically. Again, back in here, you can see all of the original panels, all of the original fiberglass that have been completely cleaned and detailed and then put back together with no overspray. Inside here, we put a little bit of coating to just stop stones from damaging the car, but for the most part, it's all original. Again, the coilovers on all four corners. Here's the valving I was talking about with the compression and the rebound. This is really, really, really a nice thing. It's an expensive thing, but it's a very nice thing when you're doing one of these cars, because you can control the way that the car works and how you want it to ride and how you want it to corner. These adjustable arms are because the car's a little bit lower, and it's also a stiffer bushing than original. Again, going forward, you can see we replaced all the brake lines. Everything is new in the car. That's a brake line actually. Fuel lines are over on this side of the car. We use a couple different types of material for fuel lines. The fuel today is very aggressive, and it will go through a rubber hose like crazy. So we use something that's Teflon, stainless, and plastic. It's very difficult to work with, and it's stupid expensive, but it's the right way to do this stuff. You can see right here, this cross member. This is something we do on all of these cars. The factory should have done it actually, but it didn't matter that much. The gearbox or the automatic transmission in this case, the stuff with overdrive is all a little bit longer than the original. So to be able to get the transmission in and out of the car, should you have to do a clutch or whatever, whatever you have to do 10 or 15 years from now, this all unbolts and comes apart, and it's still just as strong as it was originally. Again, you can see all of the insulation. You can see the natural glass and how straight everything is underneath the car. The engines, we're doing all of the LS engines. We're painting them the correct Chevrolet orange. I think it adds a little bit to it. I think it's kind of cool. This is a Borgenson power steering system that's on this. Van Steel uses the same thing that we do. I think everybody uses the same thing, to be honest with you. It's a lot quicker ratio than the factory, and it's a lot better feel in the car. And the tendency for it to leak oil like crazy and have 27 different hoses on it, which is the way the factory did a power steering car. It's far, far better. Again, the braking system in the front, it's essentially a stock braking system, but this car's not very heavy. And with the upgraded caliper, or the upgraded calipers and the upgraded rotors and an upgraded pad, this car stops really well from 100 miles an hour. You see all the stainless steel lines that we're using in lieu of the original rubber. The sway bar stuff in the front, this is a tubular control arm. They were originally stamped steel. The tubular control arm is significantly lighter and it's significantly stiffer. It has very little bushing in the front of it to stop any kind of suspension deflection when you're driving the car aggressively. Again, the coilover here, your valving adjustments here, and the front wheel differ from the back a little bit. Again, is what I did on Saturday and Sunday, racing around like a nut. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, actually. The radiator, it's an aluminum DeWitt radiator. It's actually nothing really fancy because the car doesn't have a cooling problem. Again, this was a small block car when we started, and one thing we do with all of these is we change to a big block core support because the radiator itself is a crossflow, a good quality crossflow, and it's a little bit larger than the small block. The small block radiator probably would cool the LS properly, but the big block does a lot better job. And it enables us to run more fan, which is crucial to getting the air conditioning to work as well as it does. And the air conditioning works extremely well. All back to the insulation in the car. I wanted it quiet and I wanted it cool. I drove around, it was probably 85 degrees Sunday. I was running the crap out of the car and it was really nice inside. And I had the air conditioning turned down about halfway. It wasn't even cranked up. But again, the quality of the car, this car's never been hit. It's never been damaged in any way. All we did was we stripped off what we needed to. We made straight, considerably straighter than it ever was from the factory. And then we made it beautiful black instead of the original mint green or whatever the hell they call it. So just under the hood, it's basically our same standard deal. It's an LS3 crate engine, it's brand new. You can start seeing some of the detail, the backside of the hood. This isn't the way they look normally. We've spent a lot of time detailing and making this ready. It's satin black, it doesn't really need that much detail, but it makes a difference. People don't even realize what the difference is, but it's there. Like I said, in a car that's this expensive, it's worth taking the extra effort. The air tube and stuff like that, the DeWitt radiator, I like it natural aluminum. The dual fan package, again, you can see the upper control arms, the Van Steel upper control arms, they're tubular as well. We use a Willwood master cylinder. This particular car has a Hydro Boost on it, which I'm not typically a fan of Hydro Boost, but it's pretty damn good. I kind of like it, to be honest with you. We'll see how it goes. The Roadster is going to be built with a vacuum booster and a little bit different valve cover arrangement. This is a basically standard small block valve cover for a higher horsepower small block. Not exactly for this year, but it's pretty close. I like it. I like the way it looks. I like the way it feels. It looks kind of original and kind of not. I like the way our stuff looks, and it's kind of keeps the original flavor. The Roadster is only a few weeks behind. It's ready for assembly. Everything's painted. Everything's done. We're waiting for a space to put it, but I'd say late this week we should start putting the Roadster together. So that's probably 6 or 8 weeks from being on the lift and taking pictures of that. I know somebody will be excited about that. That car's already sold. Oh. The rest of the cars, it looks like a standard Corvette under the hood, only it's impeccable, it's clean, it's detailed. Everything is insulated. Everything is put away. Everything is tightened up. Again, I like it to look like the factory built it. I mean, that's what we're after. Are we capable of doing the painted fender wells and painted firewalls? We are. We can. I just don't like it. And like I explained to you, when we decided to build these cars, I'm going to build the cars my way. People like it or they don't like it. If they like it, then I'll keep doing it. If they don't like it, we'll adjust and do something different. If you want to engage us to build a custom car from scratch, then we can, and I'll build it however you want it. It's going to take a while, and it's expensive. The outside of the car, the windows, we talked about keeping it cool inside. So one thing that a good customer of ours, John, has this 55 wagon, he showed me the windows were tinted on the wagon, which is like a greenhouse. And it made a huge difference, and it didn't look like it was tinted. I hate window tinting typically. If you look at this, it doesn't quite look right, but it looks really cool. So all of the windows in this car, including the windshield, have this ceramic film on it, and it reduces the heat inside drastically. They had an example set up with a heat lamp, and I'll bet you it cuts down the absorption of heat by 70%. It's huge, the difference of heat in the car. It's stupid expensive. I almost choked when the guy gave me the bill for doing these windows out of the car on his desk, and I still think it was $1,000 or something, $1,500, some ridiculous amount of money to do window tinting. But it's worth it. It's worth every penny, to be honest with you, because it reduces the amount of heat coming into this car drastically. I've done the Roadster's being done too, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but I just like the way it looks too. The windows look really cool. And again, this is about details, and more details. And it's about function. Everything that we're doing is about function. And that's what we've been proceeding after for years. And we're just getting better and better and better at it, to be honest with you. So again, this car is number one. So we're a few weeks behind because the dash we changed. The dash, we restored the dash. It was beautiful, had all the original gauges in it. We've done it that way numerous times. But when I started driving the car the first time, I just didn't love it. I just didn't love it. So what we have is, this is the Dakota Digital. It's an analog gauge series, and it plugs into the OBD2 system. It's really a fabulous gauge, and it works perfectly because it works with the computer that's in the car, and I just like the way it looks. It's fresh, it's clean. So we changed it. We actually took the car back apart and we changed it. That's the only change we made to it, and we also subsequently made the change to Bay City, which is the Roadster that's right behind it. So again, you'll see a carbon copy. We used the original teak steering wheel. The original teak steering wheel is freaking perfect, and I love it. It's beautiful. It works okay for me. I'm relatively comfortable in it. We modified these seats. These seats are 1 inch lower and 1 inch shallower in the back, so I fit in the car extremely well. That allows me to use this steering wheel and be very, very comfortable. For a larger diameter human being, which the Roadster, Steve is he's not bigger around, he's just big. He's 4 inches taller than I am. We're gonna put a little bit different steering wheel on it. We'll compromise in that part because he needs to get in the car, he needs to be comfortable. But we do that, that's typical, and I don't mind doing that even with this car. But this one I think is gonna be okay the way it is. The gauges are the main thing I wanted to talk about. They're freaking perfect. Every wire in the car, every wire harness in the car is all brand new. We don't reuse 60-year-old crap. Everything is brand new. The radio works. It has a Bluetooth capability. We still have the single speaker, it's a dual speaker, but it's the same speaker in the front, same arrangement. It sounds nice. If you really like music, then we would have to make a change there for you. I don't care that much about music. I want to hear the car, and it's kind of neat listening to the old radio that sounds like crap compared to all the stuff we're used to today. Again, everything is new. All the chrome that's in the car, all the fasteners. The glove box had a dent in it, so we replaced that. The steering wheel and the shifter are pretty much the only thing in the car that hasn't been replaced. But you can see the fit and finish. I like the way we integrated the red and black. I was not on board with this, but after I see it, I love it. It's fantastic. So we've got the air conditioning on. It's still about 80 degrees out. And it's nice and quiet inside. We can sit here and drive the car and it's really comfortable. It's nice and cool. Actually, it's cool enough that I'm gonna turn the fan down a little bit. So we've done a really great job getting the air conditioning working well and getting the car insulated, getting all the air moving around in the car the way it's supposed to be. Super comfortable. The ride quality is excellent. As I mentioned, we spent the weekend messing with the shock dampenings and the car's really comfortable and handling really well. Again, automatic transmission. Everybody's busting my ass about the automatic transmission. It's cool. It's really cool. And the car moves great. We can hear the exhaust a little bit, but it's not annoying. I mean, we can have a conversation and it's not a droning, terrible noise. When you step on it at about 6,000 RPM, it's making some pretty good noise. We'll step on that here in a minute as soon as we get out of some traffic, hopefully. Again, we're building a car from scratch, so to think it's just, you take it out of the box and it's all done and everything's perfect, you're dreaming. It's not gonna happen. If you don't take the time to work the bugs out of it, which is the thing most people make mistakes with. I mean, we've got a car right now in there, came from an auction, the typical friggin' auctions, and it's a really nice Mopar, and you look at it and it's really good. Well, the owner of the car called the guy that sold it at the auction and said, you know, all these things are wrong with the car. And the guy says, well, we just threw the car together and stuck it in a trailer and took it to the auction. We didn't really drive the car. That's great, man. So this guy's going to get with a $10,000 bill to work all the bugs out of the car. It's not a bad thing for us, but I mean, it's just a bullshit way of doing stuff. It really is. Here, I'm going to make a turn here. These turns and stuff that are right here, we were actually drifting around these turns a little bit. The car just really responds well. The harder you put it into the turn, the more it responds. There's not tires rubbing and, you know, it's not doing anything stupid. It's just really responding and driving well. And it brakes well. It's entirely too fast to go through the industrial park.